Good morning, Nicole Snow here today. I have a question for you today, and that question is, are you currently faced with a problem or a struggle in your life? And I don't think there's any one of us that would answer, no, everything is perfect. Everything is wonderful. I don't encounter any obstacles. I'm not struggling with anything perfectly. No one I care about or love is struggling. I think all of us would have a yes, and unfortunately probably a multitude of yeses. In Darren Hardy, in his Darren Daily messages, he shared something that I thought was really powerful, and it's about asking the right question. He says when you have a problem, what you actually have is an unanswered question. So the question really is, what's the question? And he shared a quote by Einstein that says, if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. For once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in 5 minutes easily. That he would spend the bulk of his time determining the proper question. And if you can find the proper question, the solution flows from that. And I think one of the things we struggle with is just staying in struggle and not examining it and asking the right questions so that we have the opportunity to act and to move out of it. And sometimes that comes from our tendency to be a blamer versus an owner, or the negativity bias that we're born with and that we focus on. But in a study in 2007 done by Michelle Chenard, she was a psychologist that did research on young children with their caregivers, and they determined that these young toddler-age children were asking an average of 1 to 3 questions a minute. Some of us probably feel like we have kids that ask more questions than that, but 1 to 3 questions a minute. So at that rate, by the time they reach 5 years of age, they would have asked about 40,000 questions. But then the number of questions that we tend to ask drops off precipitously. And Darren Hardy surmises maybe that's because we hit our teenage years and realize that we know everything. We've got it all figured out. But he said the problem is that as adults, we tend to rely on being experts and on the knowledge that we have and the things that we've learned, and we stop asking any questions. We stop having that introspection, and that there's great power in solving the problems in our lives by taking the time to ask the right questions. So these are some of the questions that he puts forth that you could ask yourself or ask others to help them through theirs. Identify your current problems. What seems to be the trouble, or what is the biggest struggle you have right now? What's the biggest problem you have right now? And write it down. And then taking the time to ask the right questions about it. How do you feel about blank? What concerns me most about blank? What seems to be my main obstacle? And then you can go on to asking outcome questions. What is holding me back from blank? How do I want blank to turn out? What do I want? What is my desired outcome? What benefits would I like to get out of X? What do I propose? And then here's what we need to do next. Here's the challenge for today, is to question everything. Stop being an expert and start relying on questions. Don't have any answers, just only more questions, and the questions are going to lead to solutions. So take your biggest problem, put it through those questions that Darren lays out, and be an Einstein. Start spending enough time analyzing and looking into what's your biggest problem, what outcomes do you want, where do you want to move that to, and find the solution. Stop relying on being an expert and be one who asks questions of themselves and is willing to learn and to change in that way. And that's the challenge for today. Thanks.